Yes, sir, and it is visible.
Okay, so without further delay, we shall now begin. Okay, so as Jaishi ma'am already said, so firstly, welcome all of you all to this 1 week internship and hands-on experience program on web development. So the speakers for this entire 1 week internship are me, myself, Soren Shah, Jash Sangvi, and Darshan Mahajan. So before I begin into today's content, I will just give an overview as to what all is going to be covered in this entire 1 week process. So web development is actually the development of the web pages that you actually see on your web browsers. So it is all that how does that content come up on your web page. So that is what we'll be looking at. The very basics of all of that we'll be covering in this 1 week internship. So to start off, these are the topics that we will be touching upon: HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, MySQL, PHP, and then finally we'll be doing a project. So HTML provides you with the structure of the web page. Now, what do I mean by the structure of the web page? It means the various elements and their entire positioning on across your port or your web page. How which element or which what are you seeing at what particular part of your web page? So that is known as a structure. So like if you have a particular image that's coming on top, beside it there's text, there's text below it. So that entire structure is decided and coded in the HTML part. Coming to CSS, which stands for Cascaded Style Sheets. So that is presenting with the styling of the web page. Where do you want a particular color to come behind a particular text? You want your images to be, the border of the images to be curved. So all of that will be looked after in your CSS code. Bootstrap. So now we always want that the web browser that we are using and the web page that we are looking at, the functionalities that we can see and easily access in our desktop or laptop, the same should be the same features should be visible across each and every other device of different sizes. So that is known as responsiveness, so that your elements and your web page data should be adjusted according to your screen size. That is looked after at in Bootstrap. MySQL. So now, obviously, there is some data that is being presented, and that data has to be stored at the back. It's not that whenever you're Googling something or whenever you're searching for something and you reach at a web page, so that time somebody is at the back typing it on spot. That data is stored. There is data that has to be stored and retrieved. So that data storage is done via MySQL. So SQL stands for Structured Query Language. And we'll be touching upon that as to how is the data stored, how do you enter the data, retrieve the data, access that data, and so on. Lastly, from the learning point of view, we'll be looking at PHP, which is Hypertext Preprocessor. So what does that help us in dynamicity. So what do you mean by dynamicity? That your web page should be dynamic in nature. What do I mean by that? I mean that the data that is coming from behind, that should be dynamic in nature. It should not be static and fixed. As and when the data is getting is changing in the database, as in alongside the data should change on the front end also. So the retrieval of the data and the connection between your MySQL is done with PHP. Lastly, we'll be looking at a project which is the CRUD application development. CRUD stands for Create, Read, Update, and Delete. And we'll be looking at a mini project in which we'll be incorporating all these 5 things that I've seen up till now. So that was a basic overview of the topics that we'll be going through. And now I move on to the next page. And I am Soren Shah, and I'll be covering up the basics of HTML in today's session. So firstly, what is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And as I already explained, it describes the structure of a web page. It consists of a series of elements. Now, once we'll see into the code, we will come to know that each and every, there are specific elements that are there. And the series in which those elements are written, that is how your web page corresponds to. So the order in which the elements are written, that obviously directly impacts on what you can see on your portal or on your web page. So it consists of a series of elements. The elements tell the browser how to display the content again. The file name or extension. So in the editor that we'll be using, Visual Studio Code, the extension, the file extension will be of .html type. Lastly, HTML is a markup language that web browsers use to interpret and compose text, images, and other materials into visual or audible web pages. So we'll be looking into that. How do we display text? How do we display images? How do we display other kinds of audio clips, etc., into our HTML web page? So before we begin into the actual coding of HTML, we need to understand what is the structure of HTML. So this is just a snapshot of the Visual Studio Code, which will be the editor that we'll be using. So I want people to actually understand this because this is something that usually is not explained in depth, and the importance of that, this is very important, what I'm going to be saying right now. So as has been the case with all applications that have come, there have been multiple versions. So the first line, that is doctype HTML, tells us that, okay, this is an HTML document, followed by HTML tag language English. Now, if you don't understand the word tag, do not worry. We'll be looking into that as we move ahead. So language EN, that is specifying that the page has to be displayed in English, and the content that will be typed also will be in English. Now comes the head section. So in the head section, the details about your particular web page are displayed, or the head part contains the details of your web page. Now, what do I mean by the details? So as you can see within the head, the metadata, or the word, you can read the meta word. So the meta word is the metadata is nested within the head data. So now what does this metadata tell us? It tells us about a lot of things about the web page. So you all must be wondering that when you all search, when you all type anything in Google Chrome, so why is it that only a particular page comes on top and why certain pages come later on? So that is done by something known as page ranking algorithms. And like that is another topic for a different time. But page ranking, what does it actually do is that certain keywords that are relevant to your content are picked up, and you can specify those keywords in your metadata. So that is the reason why it is very important. And later on, when you go for affiliated marketing, so in that, you all will find out the actual importance of what is covered in the metadata. So that is why it is very important. Title, as you can see in line 7, we have the tag title and structure of an HTML doc written. So this title is that whenever we have multiple tabs opened up in our web browser, in our any web browser, so in that we can see that on each tab there is a specific some content or something written on top of that. So that is your title. It defines your data, that is the title of the web page, and in general the title of the web page. In this, before the body, nothing else except for the title is visible on your web page. Only the title is visible, and then after that directly the body is visible. Now the thing that we have written in green, this is where the content to be displayed is defined. So that is a comment. So we know that commenting is a very good habit when it comes to writing codes, because it helps the person who's using the code understand as to what we have done. And welcome to the web development internship. This is a paragraph. So this is the only part of the code that is going to get displayed on the web page. So that was all about the HTML structure. I hope this is all clear to everyone, especially the head and the metadata part, because that is very important. Moving on to HTML elements. Don't worry, guys. This is now going to be a very lengthy PPT. We'll be moving quickly to the actual typing and coding. So what are HTML elements? So now everything on your in your HTML document that you're typing is an element, everything. So an HTML element is defined by a start tag, which is given by Angular. So now tags are given by Angular brackets. So start tag, some content, and an end tag. So I again attached another screenshot out here, or a snapshot out here. So out here, as you can see, there is an Angular bracket, then there is P, then there is certain style in which there is color, which is given as green. Then there is some content, which is welcome to the web development internship. And then there is an end tag. So as I said, a start tag, some content, and an end tag. So this entire first bracket, that is the angular bracket, that is your start tag, followed by the content that is actually going to be visible. So from this one line, what is going to be visible on your web portal when you execute it will be welcome to the web development internship, followed by the end tag. And what the style color green is, that also we'll be seeing later on, because that is presenting, that is about part of the styling of your content. Start tags are compulsory. Without a start tag, you will not have any element. Empty elements are elements or tags which do not have any content and do not have an end tag. So examples are BR, meta, link, image, HR, etc. So BR stands for break line. So whenever you write BR, so then it takes the control to the next line. So whatever after that you type will go on to the next line. Meta, link, image, etc. We'll be looking at all of these elements, so not need to worry. HTML elements can be nested. So out here we saw the example of nesting. That head was one HTML element within which the meta element and the title element were nested. So that is the meaning of nested elements. Last but not the least, for this PPT at least, we'll be looking at HTML attributes. So all HTML elements can have attributes. Attributes actually provide additional information about the elements. Now, what do we mean by additional information? That suppose you want to style it, you want to present it in a particular color, you want to have some kind of font in it, font style in it, some background color. All of those are specified by attributes which have properties and values. So attributes are always specified in the start tag, always, not in the end tag. And attributes usually come in name value pairs or property value pairs. And again, we'll be looking at how that is done. We'll be looking at how that is written or typed. So example of attributes are href of the anchor tag, src, alt, width, height, attributes of the image tag. Style in itself is attribute, language of the HTML tag, title, etc. So we'll be looking into all of this in detail. So that's it for the PPT. And now let's move on to what y'all all have been actually waiting for. So let's go on to the Visual Studio Code. So is my screen visible? Gunjan? Somebody could just.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Yes, yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, my is my what is the is my Visual Studio Code visible?
No,
or my...
no, your PPT is visible.
Okay, so just a second, I'll share screen my yeah. Okay, so okay, now is my Visual Studio Code visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so we'll be covering up certain basic things that we need to look at in HTML. We'll be looking at certain tags, and don't worry, this may seem a lot as of for now, but you all will get used to it as and when you all move ahead, because in the coming 5 days also you all will be looking at these tags repetitively, so you all will get an intuitive idea as to what does what. Okay, so firstly, I hope everybody has already installed Visual Studio Code. The code, the link for that same, and the file is easily available on Chrome in Google, and you can download it depending on your OS. So yes, so let us begin with headings and paragraphs. So there are many times you obviously there is a web page, you will have some of the other data in it, some of the other text in it, and you will be displaying that text depending on its importance. So headings provide you with that functionality. Now out here you can see H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, up to H6. So headings exist from H1 to H6. There are 6 kinds of headings possible. H1 will be the heading of the highest importance, and they will be providing you with the biggest in size. Size-wise, H1 is going to be biggest in size, and H6 will be the smallest. So in Visual Studio Code, when you will save this and you will run it. So I'm sorry, once again, I'll have to directly share my screen only. So yeah. So now, as you can see, I've already saved it, and we'll move on to, once you will save any HTML document, depending on which browser you're using, like I'm using Google Chrome. So it will be stored in this Google Chrome symbol, like you can see that logo. So I'll just double click on this and it will open up in your browser. And as you can see, we had written out here H1 as the heading of highest importance and H6 as the heading of lowest importance. So that is what we can see out here too, that H1 to H6 here, the size of the text is decreasing. So that is a usage of heading. So heading 1 is heading of highest importance and so on to heading 6 is heading of lowest importance. Another very important thing about headings is that where is it actually used? So in web browsers, when you're in a web page, when you're viewing the data, so whatever you write in a heading is stored in the at the back end. So it helps in navigation purposes. To be very quick, in simple language, it helps in the navigation of the content. So as you can see that we have written 6 headings out here: heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, heading 5, heading 6. So that is what headings do. So and yeah, as you can see, the tags will not be displayed. Only the content between the tags is displayed. So you cannot see this H1 that is being getting displayed. H1 will not be displayed. Only the content जो है H1 के बीच में, दोनों tags के बीच में, वो represent हो रहा है. Same thing with P. Now P stands for paragraph, and it is usually used. We know the difference between heading and paragraph. Heading contains fewer words. Paragraphs contain more words. So P is used when you want to write down paragraphs having multiple sentences. So that is when we use P, which stands for paragraph. So if anybody wants to take a snapshot of this or wants to just try it out on their own in their PC, they can try it. I'll wait for 2 minutes and then we'll continue to the next part.
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to add that whatever the code is being displayed or whatever the code is being explained, please write it on your IDE and perform it and check whether you are getting the same output or anything similar to that. And based on that, you will generate some doubts or you will try to understand how the code is written. If you are doing the coding with your own, like writing the code properly and doing the execution part, you will literally understand the part. So it's a request from me. Please try the code on your hand. We will wait for 5 minutes, not an issue, but please try the code.
Thank you, Darshan.
Yeah, sorry, just a second. And the every doubt of yours that would be explained, that are appear in the chat box would be explained on the spot. And if not on the spot, we'll make sure that by the end of the session, there is the chat box is available. So we'll be clearing all your doubts. We'll be displaying all of the things together. Time is not an issue. Time constraint is not a problem with us. It's just that if you are writing the code along with us, we'll be generating the issue. And if you put in the chat box, we can actually come up and wind up the session as soon as possible. So that would be a request. And we had some issues with respect to what is our meta viewport and all of that. We are either of us, I, Sorry, or Darshan, would be personally stopping up the session, and after the session gets over, so we have decided some crucial parts to be covered in a particular session. So we'll be completing it up and we'll be sharing the screen again personally and clarifying each and every doubt of yours with a very relevant example of that also. So don't worry about the doubts. We'll be clearing everything as soon as possible. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, you may continue now.
Yeah, I'll just wait for 2-3 minutes more wherein people can.
Sorry to interrupt, Soren. Shubh has asked whether you can show the output screen once.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So as I said, you can directly just go to your Chrome browser and this is the output that you're going to get.
There is also alternative method. You don't just need to every time go back to the desktop and click on it. There is an extension in Visual Studio, which is a live server, and you can double click on your laptop and get into that live server to see that part. HTML is not, it's not that much of a problem. So you can just go back and look at what you have written. As such, now at the end of the session, I'll be showing you the extensions which are required and a lot of different parts also. We'll be also inspecting different websites so that you can get a clear view about what is what. So you'll be getting up to that. Right now, you can go to your desktop, click it once, write down the code by yourself. And we'll be also sharing a boilerplate as in whatever code we have written, we'll be sharing it at the end of the session. So if there is any part which we have missed, while we're trying to explain. You couldn't. There may be some people who have joined from phone and are not typing and all. We'll be sharing a boilerplate, but my personal part would be that please do write the code as we are explaining. So yeah, I also don't have a laptop. Yeah, that is fine, no problem. We'll be sharing a boilerplate, but this is something that is web development is something that's a hands-on workshop. If you get a laptop and you're participating and you are typing the code as we are typing, you'll be actually understanding a lot of parts, because writing a code in a very good format is also something that that apart from a good coder, there are a lot of web development going on. There are a lot of people that are participating in web development, but writing a code in all is also a different part. So we'll be also guiding you up that how to write a code, how can you be different from different coders. So yeah.
I guess we do not need to wait on the headings of paragraphs part. I guess we can move on to the next part of HTML. So let's move on to styling. So styling now can be done in multiple ways, and we'll be looking at that also in the coming part, that what are the various ways in which we'll be looking at styling. And to be very specific, the styling part will be taken care of in CSS and Bootstrap in pretty thorough detail. Right now, we'll just look at a particular kind of styling that we'll be looking at in HTML. So style is, as I had said in the beginning, that whatever content that you have, you would like to have it in a particular manner. You wouldn't want it to be very monochromatic. You may like to have some particular colors out there. You may like to have some particular values out there, some particular, in a way that it is pleasant. So that is what is covered in styling. So we'll be covering a few certain things in styling. So now suppose this is the one paragraph that I've written. So I'll just run this once. And as you can see that at this point of time, I have nothing out here. Just a second. Yeah. So in my styling part, I've written this as welcome to the web development internship. So I guess it is still loading. Sorry guys, my net is a tad bit slow. Just a second. Yeah. As you can see that this welcome to the web development internship has come in a monochromatic black manner. So styling, what does styling do is that the way you do the styling within the same line in that particular element is that you write down style. Another good thing about Visual Studio is that in majority versions, that once you start typing any particular keyword that is relevant to Visual Studio, it will prompt you the keyword. So like if I'm writing ST out here, I can see, you can see that I have the options of style, slot, etc. So I write down style and it provides me with the entire format of what I want. So, and plus you can see out here that there are n number of, just a second. You can see that you'll get n number of options out here as to what properties that you want. So suppose we'll start off basically that I want to make the font to be suppose green in color. So I type out color, then I type out, so again I get color option. I type in colon and we get suppose dark green. So the dark green color comes out here. Let me save it and let me refresh this. You can see, okay, maybe the green color is not that visible. So let us take some color like red. And you can see that the color has changed to red. So that is what styling does, that I have changed the color to red. Similarly, I can define after the semicolon, I can define other styling properties too. For example, background color. If I want, suppose background color to be blue. So I have that entire content has been the entire line. Now, again, you all may be wondering that why have I wanted it only till this particular exclamation mark, but why am I getting it for the entire part? We will be covering that also. That happens because of the element in which it is defined. Paragraphs are block elements, so they will cover up the entire screen, the entire width of the screen. Do not worry, we will be looking into that too. So there are n number of things that I can do into this. I can change the font family, I can change the font size. What y'all can do is that y'all can type any particular letter, suppose F. and you can see the different properties that are coming. So you can select any particular property and try out values for that. Now, suppose if I take font size, I want to make it into medium size. So then I select medium, I save it, and then I do it. It is already in medium. So suppose if I want to make it as extra large, so X large, save. You can see that the size of the text has increased. So you can try this out, everyone. Please do try it out once. I'll get a good idea as to what is happening. Once y'all are done, so just send in some message or some kind in the chat box so that I know when to proceed. I'll wait for 2-3 minutes more. You can try out the different combinations that are there of the properties and the values, and you can see for yourself as to how does the content change. And don't worry, this styling is not applicable just for text. It is applicable for any element that is present. You can apply it to links, you can apply it to images, tables, everything. Whatever you can do with pen on paper, you can do it with web development on screen. As simple as that. We can even try, suppose, font family. So like you may want to have it in a particular kind of family, in a particular kind of font. So let's take like Times New Roman if it's there. So then let's save it, and then again let's run it. Apparently it is in Times New Roman itself. So let's take let's say Cambria or something. So the content has changed, the font has changed, font family has changed. Okay, I shall move on to the other part of styling. So you have styling in the form of, okay, so now out here we have specified the particular color that we want, right? So now maybe I want to, so this is in RGB format. Now RGB stands, as you all may be knowing, that RGB stands for red, green, and blue. And we know that all the colors that come up, they are in some or the other format, they are mixture of these particular colors. So there are other manners too in which you can represent it. You'll have RGBA, you'll have hex, you'll have HSL and HSLA. So RGBA stands for red, green, blue, and then you have on A stands for the transparency or the opacity that you have for that particular content. So how transparent or how opaque do you wish your content to be? Same with hex, HSL, HSLA. I will not go into the detail in this because majorly the color in RGB format is only used, but yes, that is it. Now, the other important part is CSS, which is inline, internal, and external. So CSS, as I told you before, stands for cascading style sheets. And do not worry, we will be going into the detail in that tomorrow. It will be covered up by Darshan and Josh. So I'll just give a brief outline as to what is CSS inline, internal, and external. So as you understand on the word inline, you can see out here that within the line of the content, my content was out here. So I'll just remove this font family because it is, yeah. So the content out here is welcome to the web development internship. And within the line of the content only, within the tag itself, I have defined, I've done the styling. So that is known as inline styling. That I hope that is clear. There is nothing else to that. Inline styling can be done. And inline styling is beneficial when you have very little content. So when you have very little content, you can, within that same line, you can define whatever style you want to for that. Internal. So what does internal do? That I remove the entire style attribute out here. Just a second. Yeah. So I remove the style attribute. And so this is my paragraph. as you can see that there is no styling left because I removed the entire styling. And in the head section, I'll add up a style tag, okay, wherein I will be defining the style that I want for that particular element. So out here, as you can see that this is a paragraph element which is represented by P. So that is the same thing that I will do out here. I'll write P and then curly braces. Okay. So now whatever I write here in the curly braces will be applicable to the P element out here. So suppose I wish to write again color. Okay, and let us go to some other color this time. Let's go to crimson. Okay, I want to define color. I also want to define the background color, and that I want it to be cyan. Then suppose I want to do the font size, and suppose I want to keep it to be 20 pixels. 20 pixels will become a bit too small, so let's keep it as 50 pixels. So this is known as internal, that within the same HTML document, I have done my styling of that particular element. Let me run it and let's see. So as you can see, I am getting it. I've changed the font size with the pixels as the pixel that I want. I changed the font color, I changed the background, and so on. So whatever you want, you can do this. So this is the meaning of internal styling, that all the elements that are there of your HTML page, within the same page in a style tag in the head, you define the styles that you want, the styling that you want to do for the content. Now suppose with after this I want to write another heading. Suppose I want to write a H3 heading. Okay, so I want to write an H3 heading, and suppose I write there hello everyone. Okay, I want to write this, and first let's see whether this is running. Obviously I'm getting hello everyone out here. And now suppose I want to style H1. I want to style my H3 in a manner different to P. So what I'll do is that I'll put H3 out here, and again I'll put bracket curly braces. And in that, suppose I want to keep the color this time as something different. If I want to keep color as dark orange, suppose. So as you can see, different elements, different styling can be done in the internal style sheet. So that is the meaning of internal styling. I hope this is clear to everyone, because this will be used extensively in the future sessions also. And this is very basic. You need to know this in the end. So this was internal and inline and internal. Moving to external. So as you can see out here in my head, I can attach links. So for my entire page, I can create another CSS style sheet altogether. In that, for each and every element, I can call the styling for that. The advantage of external style sheet or external CSS is that I can use one particular kind of style sheet for multiple web pages or for multiple HTML documents. So this will, I'm not going to demonstrate that for now. That will be demonstrated when we move on to CSS in tomorrow's lecture. So that's all for styling purposes. You can do a lot of styling. As I said, you can apply borders and everything. You can try that out. I would like it that everybody tries it out in their own PCs, in their own systems. I'll wait for 3-4 minutes more. Yeah, I see out here that people have asked, what if we have two H3s in the body of the code? So yes, the entire, whatever you have written H3 once. So that is why it is there. You have different divisions and classes in which you can segregate that too. But yeah, if you have multiple H3s, then this the styling of dark orange is going to apply to all of them. If people have tried it out, then I would like it if people just send in a message or two on in the chat box with a thumbs up or down or something, so then I can move on. Yeah, Aniket. So if we have more S3 and we want to give only one, then so in that case we use classes and divisions, and don't worry, that is also going to be covered today. So we'll be looking at that also as to how can the styling be done accordingly. That can be done. It's not that it cannot be done. You can do it. Okay, so I can see many people have replied that they have done this. So I assume that others have also tried it out, and we will move on to the next thing. That was all for styling. Now we move on to links, images, and lists. So links, images, and lists. Now many a times you'll see in your web page if you visit Wikipedia or other links or W3 schools or any other site. So you get links out there. So now how are those links made? If you directly just type out the link, it will come out as a text. You will not be clickable. It will not be, you cannot type on it or you cannot click on it, and it will not lead to some other thing. So same thing with images and lists. So we can look at all that. First, we have a look at images. So I'll just image, the syntax for images is img, src and alt. Now src and alt are attributes. And what does that mean? SRC and alt. SRC means source link. So the image that you want to display, obviously you'll be having that image in two places. Either you have it on your desktop or as in your system, or you'll be taking it from the web, which you want to display. So in my case, I have an image on my desktop. As you can see out here, that it is at the same place as my HTML document. My HTML document, links, images, and lists is on the desktop, and so is my dog image. So this is my image that I have out here, and we'll try to display it out here. So just a second. So it is in dog.jpeg. Sorry, dog.jpg. And sometimes y'all maybe when y'all look in your mobile or on your browser also, that your net is not that fast, and certain images you get to see an exclamation mark or you get to see some text written out there. So that is your alternate. So ALT stands for alternate. And in case if my image is not visible, then whatever I write in my alternate attribute as the value, that will be visible instead of that. So this is a dog. For instance, if I write that this is a dog. Okay, and yeah, and then after that I write that dogs are cute. Okay, yeah. So that is what I've done, and now let us open links, images, and lists. So as you can see that the dog image that is there it's spread across the entire web page. That is there. It is spread across the entire web page. And if I scroll down, the dogs are cute is also visible out there. Now, obviously, we do not want an image like this that's covering up all the content, right? So what we do instead is that we can, in the attribute section, we can also define the width and height of the image. So I take width as, suppose, let's take it as 30%. So 30% out here indicate, sorry, yeah, 30%, and let's take the height also to be same as, let's take height as 40%. Okay, so now this percent is the entire area that is available. That much percent of that will be visible out here. So let's save it and let's run it, and you can see that the image size has reduced, and this is a presentable image. That now you can see that I have written it, the dogs are cute content, I've written it directly after the image. That's why it has come beside the image. If I want, I can give a break out here. So just a second. Break line tag, which will take it to the next line. So you can see the dogs are cute has shifted to the next line. So this is about images. Image, src, dog, jpeg. This is a dog. 30%, 40%. You are maybe wondering that why can't I see that this is a dog part? My net is working fine, and my image size, it is compatible with the image is compatible with my web page. So that is why you can see the dog. If the dog wouldn't, if the image would not have been visible, this is a dog would have been printed. I'll give you all a minute or two to just try this out. You can try it with different widths and heights and to see as to how does it fit out. Yes, Aniket. If the image is deleted, then it will come. Yeah. If you want, I can try that also, but I do not wish to delete the image. So, yeah, if I take up, let's just take this entire thing again. And if I put a image which does not exist, so you all can see out here that this is also a dog. Out here, dogs are cute. This is also a dog. But I do not have an image which is dog.jpg. Or let us just take this as XYZ. Okay. And you can see that there is no image like that. So that is the reason why the alternate text that has come, that I had written in alt attribute, this is also dog, as displayed out here. Thank you, Aniket. Yeah, what if photo is in any folder? Then you need to specify that particular path. The entire path has to be this. Okay, so let's move on to other parts of this. Now let us look at links. So we go to links. Now links are defined by anchor tags, and there are certain attributes which are compulsory for links and images also. For image, SRC is a compulsory attribute. Without that, you're obviously you will not get to see an image because you have not put any source file in it. Similarly, we look at yeah, links. So links are defined by anchor tags or A, in which href is there. So href stands for the link that is there. So it is going to refer to the link that you want to send the person to. So I'll just take up any particular link from the web portal and suppose I have WP schools. Just a second. Yes. So as my screen is visible, what I did in the code was that I put in W3 Schools website link out here, and I wrote W3 Schools out as the content, and I just put in a break tag. So yeah. Again, one more thing to be kept in mind is that image does not have the img tag, or the image tag does not have a closing tag, whereas links do have a closing tag. So let's see what do we get as an output out here. So yeah, we have the first content, which was a paragraph. We have the image of the dog that we had, and we have this link. And now you can see that when I hover over it, it becomes as a clickable this. So if I click on it, it will take me to the HTML or the W3 Schools website. Okay, so that is how your links work. I can also make images as links. I can make images as links too. That also can be done. So this is the href and the target attribute. Now, so target, now what does target do? As you all saw that out here, when I clicked on the link or when I clicked on the content W3 Schools, it on the same page, it opened up the W3 Schools. So now if I take a target, so target tells me where should it open up. Again, I'll do that. And it opened up into a new blank page wherein it was loaded. You can try this out in your different property values. So that is the function of your target as to where do you want to redirect after clicking on the content, where do you want to redirect your this to your page to, or where do you want to redirect a person to. So that is for links. And then next we look at lists. So lists, many a times we wish to present things in a proper format, in a proper list format. So lists are of three types: unordered, ordered, and descriptive or description lists. So first we look at unordered lists. So unordered lists are given as UL. Unordered lists are given as UL. And then whatever I write in that as a list would be coming as that. So if I take so firstly I need to specify LI, which is a list. So just a second. So lists contain the unordered list. So I take UL, and suppose I want to list the names of car brands. So suppose I take Mercedes. Then again, another unordered list that I want to take is suppose anything. It can take it can be anything. Does not make a difference. Suppose I've taken this, okay, and let us take another break out here. So you can see that the content has come in a proper list format: Mercedes, BMW, and Audi. So this was an unordered list. If I were to go for an ordered list, again, first I need to include LI, and then for ordered list, it is OL. Okay. And this time, let us take the names of, let us take any name, like we'll take the three authors' names. So like my name. You can see that even our names has comments in the order list. Any doubts? LI means list item. Yeah. Yes. Chirag, as I said, that you can use the target and keep it as blank, which will open it into another tab. It will not open in the same tab. So that's that. LI means list item. Yes, LI means list item. So list item, and in that the unordered list or the ordered list. So that is what is written out there. And yeah, so these are the two lists that are mainly used in lists format. So that's all we will be covering in lists. I hope you all have tried it out, and if you all have tried it out, then just can you please explain the difference between UL and OL? Yeah. So ordered list, UL stands for unordered list, and OL stands for ordered list. So in ordered list, what I can do is that I can write a particular type. So which will let me know about the from where should it begin. So as in just a second. So I can take type as 1. Just a second, there's some error that's coming. Just a second, guys, just a second. Yeah, I understood the mistake that I was making. My bad. Yeah, so it actually comes in the opposite manner. So this is Li. So I'll just retype this. Sorry, I actually got confused out there. Yeah, so firstly, it will be an unordered list followed by a list item, which would be suppose A, or let us take it as names. So Soren, list item Josh, list item Darshan or Raman. Okay, so yeah, so as you can see in my Chrome, I guess this should do it. Yeah, so you can see the buttons. And then when I go for an ordered list, if I copy this entire same thing and put it as ordered list, you can see the ordered list as in should have numbering in it. So that is the reason why we get 1, 2, 3. You can specify where do you want to start it from. So that is the meaning of ordered list. Moving on, we'll move on to tables because that is extremely important. So in tables, so now whenever there are obviously there is always some of the other content that you wish to represent in the form of a table. So we use table as the keyword and as the tag. So now in your table, there are rows. There are going to be multiple rows, and you have your headings and then your cells. You have particular headings and you have particular cells. So depending on the order in which you write, accordingly you will get your table. So we'll see how does that work out. So we take table. In that first we'll have a table row, and then I'll decide that my first row should always be a heading. So I'll be writing it as th, and how many ever th tags I'll be having or lines I'll be having, that many will be my column names. So suppose I want to have name, age, and roll number. Suppose. So if I have name out here, I have my second th as age, and I have my third th or table heading. Th stands for table heading. So if I have it as name, age, and suppose roll number, as I said. Okay. So this is going to okay. So I'll have to open my tables, voila. Yeah. So I'm closing this and this. And as you can see that I get 3 things in bold. So my next row should be the input values that I want to put, that corresponding to a name, the age, and the roll number. So if I take, again, I have to take tr, in which I have to take th, in which suppose my name, I take it as Soren. Then I take it as th, my age as 21, and my roll number as but this time these will not be ts, this will be td, because there can in each table there can be only one heading. So these are td. And my roll number is suppose 702. Okay. So control S. So as you can see that I am getting under the name I'm getting Soren, under the age I'm getting 21, and under the name I'm getting roll number 702. But now this looks very shabby. We want it in a proper format with the borders and everything. So what I'll do is in the table I will style it. So how do I do the styling out here? I will do it as style again, obviously. So in style, I'll be taking margin, I'll be taking just a second, guys. Just a second. Hold on. Yeah, sorry. So in the table style part, I'll be putting up the borders. So I can take a border and I can have it in any color. Suppose if I want it as black only. Okay. So let us see what do we get in that. Just a second. Okay, guys, I'm getting a bit of an error out here. I'll get back to you regarding this as to how do we do the table in that. Josh or Darshan, if you all want to just help out at this point. Just a second, guys. Yes. So as I said, so this is about tables, what we'll be looking at. So in short, you'll know as to how to insert your data in a particular format of a table. I will get back to you all towards the end of the session as to how do we add the borders, table borders. I am facing certain issue out here. I do not know why, but yeah, so that's regarding tables. So that's all, people, you can try this out. The number of TR that you will increase, that means TR stands for table row. So that many rows will also increase accordingly. I'll give you 2 minutes, just try it out once. Yeah. So we do not need to use styling. I was correct in the beginning. So yeah, you can directly use border, and with that you get the particular kind of border that you want. That's it. Okay, so that's all that we have for tables, I guess. Table border equal to 1. Yeah, yes. Column, which element is used? For column, which element is used? Actually, it is getting inserted in columns only. So each TD will be inserted for each column. That is how it works. Yeah. So, I'll just stop my share screen for a second. Okay, so now we move to block and inline. So block and inline, as you all saw, as I told you all in the beginning, that you all saw that when I was doing a background color, so it was getting applicable to the entire page, whereas I may have wanted it for only a particular part. The reason why that happens is because certain elements in HTML have a default setting of block and certain have a default setting of inline. And what do you mean by block and inline? Block means that the content that you type or the content that you display will be taking up the entire available width of the screen. So from left to right, how much ever scrollable width is there, it's going to take up that entire part. Inline, and second, the content will always start on the next page, on the next line. So even if I have a small image, after that, if I type something, it is going to go to the next image, because actually that image is occupying the entire screen space for that particular that height and that width. Okay. Whereas inline, what does inline mean? Inline means that your within that same line, that on the width of that particular element that you're specifying is only for that particular area. It is not extending for the entire screen space. And what I mean by this will be clear when I will show you the yeah. So see, in the code, I kept div as hello everyone. So now div is another tag which is used for containing other tags. So I kept div as hello everyone. Next line I've kept P as a paragraph, welcome to web development. And then I've written span. Now span is an example of an inline element. So span, today we learn HTML and then I end that. So let's begin. So what happens out here is that welcome to web development, span continues out there. If I would have taken another P out here, it would have gone to the next line. So as you can see, it is out here. So now if I suppose, for example, if I take span in the next line, so ideally, let's see what happens. It still remains at that same part because span is inline. So from where you have started it was where the previous element ended, it is going to begin out there only. If I wish to take it to another line, I will have to add another BR out here or a break line. That is when it goes to the next line. So that is the meaning of block and inline. Div by default is a block element. P by default is a block element. Span on the other hand is an inline element. I hope this block and inline is clear, and the impact of block and line will become more clear when we look at in CSS when we look at images. So that will be even more clear because that time sometimes you want images with text beside it, sometimes you want it below it. So that is when you need to define your position of the text as to where do you want to place it. And that placing can be decided via deciding whether it will be a block element or an inline element. You can try this out so that you get an idea as to what does it actually mean. Another example that we can take of an inline, this would be something like an h1 followed by my. Then again, I take another span element. So I take another span, the span element, and I take it as important. And outside the span, I write it as heading. So it's coming as that. Even if I take it on the next line, just to continue out there in the previous line only because it is h1 because span is an inline element. That is why. And if I were to suppose end h1 out here and suppose start an h2 out here, hello. You can see that the h2 has come below, though I have written it in the same line as h1 because h1, h2 headings are block elements, so they are going to automatically start on a new line only. So that's block and inline to y'all. Because we are running at a bit of a crunch, I will move on to classes and ID. By using span, we can continue the line on same line. Yes. Can we change alignment of image? Yes, definitely you can change the alignment of image. You can apply padding. You can apply, if I want, I can show you all that. So coming back to images. So we had an image out here. So width and height, when I specify the width and height, I can show padding to be equal to, suppose I keep a padding of suppose 20 pixels. Okay. Then let me go to links and this. Just a second. So I have to add, because I'm doing inline, so I need to add padding. So I write just a second. Style padding, I can add it as 20%. Yeah. You can see that on all sides, I got a 20% this padding. Now 20% is too much. So that is why when it comes to padding and margin, we usually use pixels, px. As you can see that this has happened to 20. Now if I increase it considerably to suppose 80 pixels, so the change is there. You can see that the change is visible, and you can align it accordingly. You can do any and every kind of doing that. This. So suppose now if I want to put it as align, just a second. So yeah, that is what was the doubt, I guess. So yeah, what exactly padding is. So yeah, so padding, as just said, is to give space. So around your content, how much ever padding you specify, so that much blank space will be left around your particular content for which you have specified the padding. So now suppose out here I have not written any text. So if out here, if I write this is a dog, so you all will see that there is a specific, you can draw a visual box out here, that there is a specific box. After that, there has come out, this is a dog. And on the other hand, if I were to put margin, so suppose I have margin, and let's keep it as 10, or let's keep it as 20 pixels. So margin can be specified for a specific side that you want, top, bottom, left, right, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay, so as I explained, block and inline. Now let's go to classes and ID. So yeah, many of you are asking as to, like, if I have H1 and H1, so then how can I give different this to that? So now what we can do is, so classes, this is very important because right now I'm explaining the pretty basic code. Later on, when you have multiple codes and you need to group them, you need to nest them into particular elements. So that is when classes and ID comes into handy. So how do you use that? So I'll be writing a div element within which I will define a class. I will type down a class. Now class is a keyword. And let us give it a name, a class name of ABC, a random class name. Okay. And out here, let us give a heading of this is a class. Okay. Let us take another div which has an ID, and let's take that as an example. EXMP. Okay. And I have suppose an H3 out here. Okay. Or let us take the same H1 that is there before. So let's take H1, and this is an ID. Okay. So if I just represent this as classes and ID, so you all can see that this is a class, this is an ID, there is no difference in it. But now when I want to put internal styling to it, not inline, internal styling. So as we said out here in the head section, we write a style code. Okay. Now there is a method of calling or referring. Reference operators are there which you need to use to refer to particular elements. So for class, we use the dot operator. So when I use a dot followed by my class name, so I will not write class out here. I will write down the class name, which is, my class name is ABC. So class name ABC followed by the curly braces. Now, when I take the class name as ABC with the curly braces, and suppose I want to do the text color as anything, it can be anything, blue. I want to even put it, suppose um, I want to put it as font size. Suppose, no, let's keep it as extra small, and color font size, and suppose one more thing, if I want to put it as background, suppose if I want to put a background color to be brown. Okay, and now this I wanted to do for h1 of class, and now if I want to do the h1 of id, for the reference operator for id is a hashtag. So if I take a hash, again followed by the id name, my id name is exmp. So exmp out here, and let's take copy these same things but with different attribute property values. So I had blue out here, so now let's make it green. Let's remove the font size altogether, and I suppose want to make the background color to be as blue, as light blue. Okay. So now let us see let us see what happens. As you can see, my class is defined first, my ID is defined later. My class has both, though both of them are in H1, though both of them are under the heading 1, I can even control the size, and I can apply different styling to different elements. So that is what classes and ID help me with. And this seems easy, and this seems not that of that much relevance right now. But as I said, as you'll move on to longer codes, lengthier codes, wherein you want to apply one particular part of styling to one particular part of your web page, that is when classes and IDs help a lot. Do try this out, everyone. Please try this out. And once you all are done with trying it out, do let me know. To be kept in mind are these reference operators. That is what defines a specific element or a specific class or ID. Like after this, if I put a paragraph also, a class is very. So then that also gets included in that, because I've applied for the entire ABC. I've applied that. Why size changes? So the size is changing because I have overwritten the H1 size. So the H1 has a specific size of its own. But as you can see in the class ABC, I've mentioned font size to be extra small. So if I, instead of extra small, if I make it as extra large, and let us run it. So then that is going to be at a size bigger because I have overwritten that particular value. Both are in H1 line, right? Yes. Everyone, please try this out. Just code out in your own PCs. Now, suppose out here, if I have another class out here, suppose if I have a class named anything, web dev, suppose, and out here, if I have written a span element, which is hello. Okay. And now if I want to style this, so again, I can do that. I can just use a dot operator and call a web dev. And I can put the color out there, supposed to be yellow. followed by a semicolon. There is yellow out here, like that. Can we apply opacity in it to make it transparent? Yes, definitely. You can apply to that to any this you want. Like suppose if out here, if I type opacity, if I take opacity and if I take it as inherit. So now I like it's not visible out here because I've taken the color only like that. But yeah, you can use that. You can definitely do that. Opacity is usually used whenever you have more than text. It is definitely used, as per what I've seen, it is used more for images and content, because it is there that you need to have a particular opacity of your image. Okay, so why we use hash instead of that? So yeah, as I said, there are reference operators. So for a class and an ID have different properties. तो अगर मेरे को क्लास को अगर रिफर करना है तो उसके लिए एक अलग सिंबल रहता है, एंड अगर आईडी को रेफर करना है, so for that I have a different symbol. So that is the reason why we use hash and instead of dot. So the dot operator is used for classes specifically, and hash operator is used for IDs. The reason is because मैंने यहाँ पे class, I have defined class out here and ID out here, ना? So class के लिए I need to use a different order or a different operator. Sorry. Okay, guys, because we are running on a time crunch, we can use for CL. Yeah, Josh. We can. Okay, so I'll save this and then we'll go to the most important part of this, which we'll be even using in the project that we'll be doing. So we all have come across multiple sites have forms in them where you need to fill in your details, and that data is taken somewhere else and you're redirected to some other place. Your exam forms, all of them are actually basically forms. So to save us time, I've already typed out a generic form out here for y'all. So just a second, I'll just make it look a bit neat. Yeah. So for forms, what do we do is that there is a form variable, a form tag. So we define a form tag first, followed by action. Now, what does this action do? I'll explain that after we go to the form. So I'll first display to you what does this form do, and then later on we can see that what content is doing what. So I have a text box for first name, a text box for last name, a text box for mobile number, and I have radio buttons for gender and a submit button. Now, how do we make that? So I have taken a form action. This is again, yeah, I've taken a form action. I have a label for f name as my first name. So that is going to help me provide with the label. Just a second. That's going to help me provide with the label for the content. The box के लिए मेरा label is first name. So that is the label first name, and I've taken a BR, I've taken a break so that it moves to the next line. If I remove this BR, then it is going to come in the very same line, as will be visible now. It has come in the same line. We can use that also. So I'll remove the unnecessary BRs. Okay. I'll take another BR out here. Yeah, so we took it in one line only. You can do that. So here now type. Now type is very important out here. Type defines what kind of data will be taken in by your form. What kind of data will be taken in by your form. So or rather by that particular field. So now out here I've taken f name. First name we know should be in the form of text. So that is the reason why we have labeled out here as the input type as text. There are multiple types of input types that I can use. There are text, there are numbers, there are radio buttons, there are checkboxes, there is email, there are multiple. There is a date, there's date, there is day. All of those kind of types are there, which help define what kind of type will be taken in that particular field. So ID is fname, name is fname. ID and name out here is important because it helps us if I wish to go for the styling and if I want to access the data of that later on, it will help me in that. So first name, last name again has the same thing. Now number out here. So number can be a number that can be typed in. Now gender. So now many a times we wish to have one single input from an option of inputs. So you can use a radio button out there. So that is the input type radio. So what does radio button do? Then I can select any one of these. I can select any one of these. And yeah, that's what the label does. That it tells us that you can select any one of these points. Got it? And this value, what does this value do? We notice out here that we have not used value in the other three cases, but we are using values in the radio buttons. Reason for that is because sometimes it becomes difficult for, if I just, sometimes I wish to even type when I'm on mail. If my mouse is on mail, I want to click out there and the radio button should get selected. So that helps in that. If I remove that, let us try. If I just remove this one value out here, okay, and if I just refresh it, okay, so it is still happening. Just a second. So usually we keep that for its value. It helps in storing the value of the variable, because later on when the data is collected and it has to be sent, so that time the value that is taken from the user as well as the value that is stored has to be both taken. Okay, so that is what is the entire thing. Last but not the least comes the input type submit and the value submit. So we can see that that is a button actually, and yeah, just a second. Yeah, so that is a button. So now what happens? What is the importance of the submit button? That after you have taken your the data, you have filled in the data. After that, the submit button, what it does is that it collects all that data, and then it is later on, it sends that data later on for further processing. And where does it send it is defined by this action. By this action, it is defined by this particular action. So now we do not have any action page out here. So I'm going to be keeping this blank. So if I keep this blank, it is not going to take me anywhere. So suppose if I fill in my data like this and my random number, and if I take mail and if I submit, the file can't be accessed is coming because I do not have any action form out here. If I remove this altogether, so that's the case. So that is what happens. The importance of the submit on this, then later on when we go to PHP, that time we'll be integrating this part with the PHP part, because that is where you'll be redirecting and sending your data from one page to another. You have form methods also, where we get and post. Those are the two most common methods used. And what do? They take in get method is taking the data from another page and sending it to this page. And post method is taking the data that you're filling it out here and sending it to another page. So that's all that is there in forms. So yes, this has been a very cursory but an important session in which the basics of HTML have been covered. As I said, do not worry, all of this will be covered up later on. And you will get accustomed to these particular tags and the method of writing when you'll move to CSS, Bootstrap, and so on. Can we insert various country code and mobile number, like for India it is 9++91? Yeah, we can as Darshan has replied, you can use the pattern attribute. What if I want to restrict the number input letters? For example, I don't want user to exceed phone number limit of 10 numbers. Yeah, so that also can be done. For that, you have certain restrictions that can be placed in. I have not gone into those details because that would increase the complexity of the code. But yes, all of that can be done. F name is first name. Yeah. Okay, so that's all from my end for HTML. And in tomorrow's session, we'll be looking at CSS or cascading style sheets, which will be taken up by Darshan and Josh. So, yep, that's all from my end. Thank you everyone. Hope you all had a good session. Gunjan and Rahul, over to you all.
Yeah, please don't leave for a while. There are certain things that we need to explain to you as well. There are certain parameters in the code that I'll be screening up my, I'll be sharing my screen, and it would be very much helpful. For example, the HTML doc type. It's not to be returned every time. It's something that we can do it by an extension as well. So just a second, I'll share my screen up, and I'll also be taking up a few important topic which was of meta. So supposingly, yeah. So how to actually create a folder and get into Visual Studio? That was a question. So double click on your desktop. Actually, I am a Mac user. You can do it on Windows as well. Create a new folder, and a folder would appear, and go to Visual Studio Code, and you can have the recent folder here and a new file also here. You can also open a folder and get into that. So my folder is in my desktop, and here is that untitled folder which I've created. I'll be not going into that. I'll be going into this day one folder and opening it up. So yes, we can make a folder like this. So by clicking on this, so this is what normally a boilerplate looks like. So for making up a HTML file, go to the first button here. This would create a new folder in your folder, and this would create a new file in your folder. So clicking on this, supposedly test1.html would be my file name, and it is already taken. So it could be test.html. So I create a folder, and then I type HTML, and here the boilerplate shows up, and I can get this boilerplate. So basically, how is this done? So go to your extension in your Visual Studio Code and type HTML boilerplate. So I already have it. So there are a lot of extensions. Some are required, some are not required, and all of that. But yeah. So here is my boilerplates. I've already downloaded it. So the first extension, this is that extension. You can install it, and the boilerplate would be coming in. Here is also a video representation of how you can actually get that boilerplate. So yeah, first is this, and second would be, as I was telling you earlier, that if I want this to open, I can't go every time here and click on supposedly this folder and go here and get this out. Every time this is not required. So what I can do is I can get an extension of live server. So same, the method would remain the same. Go to extension, type live server, and you'll get this live server, install it, and you'll get this. So how does that work? So go back to the code that you were on. So I already have it, so I won't be utilizing it. So here is also a video description of how you can actually use it up. So I'll be going to my test HTML. I'll be double clicking it, and then here is an option of open with live server and closed with live server. So if I open it with live server, I'll be getting up this plate. Basically, I have not written anything anything on that. So it is a blank doc type. So I won't be getting any animations or any text messages or any styling. We'll be getting in tomorrow. So how you can actually do it. So there are a lot of things such as port 550 or 5500, HTML, UFT8. This all will be explaining tomorrow or day after tomorrow when we'll be taking a Bootstrap. So there was another question that also popped up, that for meta. So we'll just go to Amazon. Yeah. So I'll just a second. Yeah. So double click on it. This is something that use Chrome to inspect. Safari doesn't give you that allowance to inspect anything. So if I go to amazon.in and I see,
So just inspect it out. This is something that a cool thing to do. So as we are talking about the meta tags, you know that when we type in amazon.in, you are actually directly reflected to the site. But there, if you go to Amazon, there are certain things that are actually written out there. So that things are actually written out in the meta tags, which would be in the head tag. So you can inspect the website like this. And here is the head tag, and here is the meta equivalent. There are a lot of things that you won't understand right now, though that's completely fine. We'll be taking up sessions on this as well. So meta tag, and here are the licks, and here are the scripts, and everything with respect to the description and all of them are actually specified here. So see, here is the title, and here is the online shopping site in India and all of that, amazon.com. So whatever is visible, and here is the description for the Amazon website. So here are the keywords that Soren talked about, affiliate marketing. So that is a whole and all different subject. I'm just here to tell you that you can also, so where is meta actually used. So just read out here, the description is Amazon online shopping by India, by mobiles and all of that. And here are the keywords. So now if we go back and just type in Amazon India, so you see here is that Amazon online shop in India by mobile, by laptops, by camera. So here is a short description about your website. So whenever you create a website, there is always a short introduction to be provided. So from here, by putting up the meta tag and by putting up the style sheet, you can also give out that the short description and the keywords to carry on with affiliate marketing. Yeah, so that was it for today. So I guess all the doubts are resolved, and tomorrow we'll be taking up that how to style up the things that Soren created, and a lot of things also after that. So how to make it concise, how to view a website on the mobile phone. There are a lot of websites which are mobile friendly. So Bootstrap comes in as a mobile friendly. So we'll be explaining everything in detail after a certain amount of time in the following days. So yeah, that is all that I need to say. And actually, I guess now we can conclude. Gunjan, Akade, please take over from here.
Gunjan?
Gunjan, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Gunjan,
Yes, sir. I'm here.
please proceed so I can end up the things.
Yes, sir. Thank you for attending the first day of our session. We'll be continuing tomorrow and discussing the further topics of this event. And at the end of it, you'll be given a project which you have to complete. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Sir, over to you.
Okay, students, thank you so much. And the attendance will be recording from the Zoom link only. From the Zoom, we will take your attendance. And end of the session, you get your feedback link, and accordingly, you can fill and get your certificate. Okay. So thank you. You can start leaving.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I'll ending the meeting, Gunjan.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.